just well done. You know,
You think?
well done. I really do think.
Well, thank you, man.
Well
Thank
done,
you, bro.
You know, that's one of life's biggest successes.
No.
Pops, you're gonna be the first guest on the Father Collective podcast.
I couldn't feel more honored. Just got to make sure I don't slap the mic.
Alrighty, well, I guess I should introduce myself. Hello, everyone. I'm Jay, and this is the first episode of the Father Collective podcast. And I couldn't think of anyone more appropriate than to begin this journey than the man who began my journey on Earth.
True that.
Robert Tibbs, my very own father. So, let's talk about fatherhood, Pops. Why don't we take it back to when you became a father? Tell me about when you first found out that Allison's mom, Terry, who's a different mom than me, was pregnant.
All right. So first let's talk about why we decided to have a child.
It was intentional?
Intentional with almost zero forethought. It was just what people did. You know, you get married, you have children, and there wasn't any real discussion about it. It was like, hey, yeah, should we have a baby? Yeah, great, let's have a baby.
How old were you?
And when Allison was born, I was 29, right? So close to the age of somebody else I know.
Yeah,
right?
I was 26.
Yeah, you know, and when Allison was born, it was for me it was like the best Christmas gift
let's go
ever.
back before she was born.
Right.
When you if you can go back to
Right.
when you knew
Right.
you were going to become a dad.
Right.
What were you doing? You were working.
Right.
What was the
Working.
process like when you?
It was literally, Jonathan, there's almost no forethought in it. It was almost as if at the time you have a child, you become a parent, there was no preparation for being a parent. There was almost no even thought about what it was going to be like. The only thing we did was prepared for having a baby. We had to buy a new car because we were living in upstate New York and you wanted to have a new car and with 4x4, etc. Prepare the room. We had just bought a new house. It was our first house that we had bought together. And we prepared it. It was almost academic and mechanical. But the thought about deciding to do it and what we were stepping into, honestly, I think I don't remember any deep conversation that we ever had about, okay, what is it going to be like to be parents? Wow. It was just it's what you do.
it.
Yeah. You know?
So different.
Similar to, I'm sure, a lot of people when they go to college, they graduate college, and it's like, okay, damn, I'm an adult that's supposed to make a life. And it was more like that. It was quite interesting.
That's so different because we spent so much time
contemplating
the meaning
on
of
it and just thinking about it, but it just was not that.
Yeah. So you didn't have any.
Boop, I'm a dad.
Okay, I'm gonna be a dad, and then boom, I'm a dad.
Right.
What
and I was looking forward to it. So that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
So
what was that? What happened on the day that you became?
So we had prepared, literally, it was all about kind of academic preparation, right? We prepared, even when Allison came home from the hospital, so let's talk about when she was born.
Yeah.
When she was born, typical birth.
So you were there?
Yeah, everything,
right?
There, and everything just went, it was like, going out to get the mail. You know what I mean? You have a baby, it's like, but the moment that, here you are the first time and you're holding your daughter and you're looking at this face and then it starts, it almost starts to go, oh, here it comes. It means like somebody's turning up or down the thermostat and you're starting to, damn, it's getting warm in here, And you see that child and you start then to think about, my goodness, I have the responsibility for this child. But what came honestly at the same time for me was how much fun it was. she was
Right away.
right away, and we had
baby
prepared.
infant,
Yeah, you know the, and you look at this and you're saying, oh my goodness, and she was a really easy baby. Her grandmother was there, so my
So
mother-in-law
you had
was there.
Terry's mom
Yeah,
was
Terry's mom
around.
was around when the baby came home from the hospital,
That's so helpful.
and I not really.
No.
Because I had prepared for, I mean, literally, I'm kind of like a bit of a Boy Scout. I literally had even the newspapers that I was going to read. So we had decided, okay, baby wakes up in the middle of the night. I'm going to go get the baby. We actually did that with you too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go get the baby. If the baby needs changing, I'll change the baby. Then I'll give the baby to her mother to be fed. And while she's feeding the baby, I even had my Time magazines and my newspapers set beside my bed to be able to occupy the time when Allison
Wow,
would
she
be
was
feeding.
feeding.
Yeah.
And then you would bring her back to
Yeah,
her room.
that's right. Then
She
I would-
slept in another room.
That's right. She slept next to us, but I would be the first point of taking her, and it was just everything came as it's even reflecting on it now. It just came almost every day. It was like a son of a gun. Didn't think of that. And it
just
just
deal
rolled
with it.
out. Yeah.
And then what about the love? Some people are like, as soon as I looked into those eyes, I was just totally in love. I felt that.
Yeah.
With
sign,
Aaliyah.
sign up. I was
But a lot of dads don't feel that. It's really common to
yeah.
just. Apparently, it takes a while to really feel that bonding, and
Right.
at first, just like, okay, cool, I've got a little infant. You don't get as much of a relationship with them, and apparently, a lot of dudes take a while to feel.
right.
Yeah.
I felt
But
the
I felt
instant love.
instant connection. I
Yeah,
mean, even
me too.
before and apparently that as well, depending on how much you imagine yourself with this child, like researched, it's been the level of oxytocin that a man produces, the bonding hormone, pre the child's birth.
Right.
If you connect with the child, talk to the belly, if you actually,
we did that. Yeah.
like envision yourself being a dad, apparently your bond with the child is significantly higher
Yeah.
than before. Anyway, so you felt the love, I think. I
Felt the
right
love
away.
immediately, but the other thing that I felt immediately and grew was just how much fun a baby can be. Seriously, I remember as soon as we could take her into the office, I took her into the office, and I was really running around the office. But look at this! You've got to get one of these. They're the coolest thing in the world. It was like and Allison was adorable. She was so cute, and she was like, it was just a perfect moment, and I fell in love with my daughter. At the same time, I fell in love with being a father.
Yeah.
Because seriously, it wasn't even really, as I said, it wasn't thought about. You know what I mean? You just gotta mechanically move through it. But my gosh, man, what an amazing moment! Amazing moment.
Yeah. What, 41 years ago?
Yep.
Yeah. Since 41.
41 years ago this month.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Wow. And so then, what was something that? What was the biggest change in your? When you became a dad. What did you notice was the biggest change, like in the first 12 months?
Yeah, interesting. So
You know,
let me
like-
just reflect on that. I would probably say the acknowledgement that I have a responsibility for creating the well-being for another human being. When you're married, and when I first got married, Allison's mom she was a professional, and she had a life, and I felt being a husband that we would be partners, right? But when you look at that child and you realize that, wait a minute, this isn't about just an accommodation of her life. You're responsible for creating the life that she will experience. And when you think about it, everything she does, eats, touches, where she goes, you're responsible for every single thing. And you know, babies are they're just like on a death wish from day one. They're biologically programmed to survive, but you have to make sure that they don't do or be exposed to something that's going to be a threat to her. And just that, cognitively, you know, that's like, oh, hold on a second. Like, I don't have any buddies that I got to literally carry around on my shoulder and wipe their butts if they poo.
Pay for everything they'll ever need for decades.
Just the emotional acceptance of that turned me on. I loved that thought, and I still do. I love the gift of saying, wait a minute, the universe is asking me to address myself to the 100% well-being of another person. And I never experienced it again until my brother was passing away, and I was in a situation I have to do the same thing with him. It's a beautiful thought.
Kids.
Yeah, you know. But it was. I have to tell you, I just loved it. I loved just the discovery, the emotional discovery, the intellectual discovery. There's so much to figure out, you know, because they do stuff, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, I don't know. And there was no, you know, that's why it's so beautiful that something like the Father Collective is there for men. There was there wasn't even any conversation about it, you know what I mean? It's like, look, it's like somebody giving you the keys and saying, okay, you're a driver now, figure it out.
It's so funny, you know. Like, here's one of the most impactful, profound, reality-shifting experiences you'll ever go through. Not one worth talking about. It's not one that you just talk about with your buddies.
Yeah.
You know, not one worth preparing about. You know, it's like you're going for a driver's license. People talk about that. I went, doing my driver's lessons. We were like, going to get my driver's license.
There's no driver's ed.
But having a
but you know,
human
part
child
of it, I
living
think,
that address.
was, as you know, your grandfather was he's American Indian, you know, blood, or Native American, and I think obviously, you know, the cultural importance between father and son, between the African, you know, tribal environment and the Native American tribal environment, it just got lost, got washed away because we were just kind of subsumed into, you know, we're American culture, and because we were so poor, and my father was disabled, your grandfather's, you know, was disabled, so I didn't have even the connection of something to try to emulate because he physically was not capable. You know what I mean? He was there emotionally.
Like your whole life? Was this
my whole life, yeah.
before
He had a stroke sometime when I was, before I was born. That's why we grew up on the farm. And he wasn't there. So there was just nothing. It's almost like if somebody...
But what about emotionally?
Oh, geez.
Time. Do you have memory? Did you guys?
God. Oh, yeah.
What was your relationship like with your dad on an emotional level?
I can remember Jonathan laying my head on his chest and feeling his heartbeat in my ear. I remember that.
And then
I remember what he smelled like. I remember, which wasn't often not the best, but and incredibly, and I loved him so much, right? I can remember as a kid, you know, and he would just do little odd jobs and do anything to make money. And I remember he was doing some job as that meant he had to leave at night. And I remember waking up and my father was trying to leave, and I actually was standing between his legs, holding onto his legs, and my mom had to come and get me and say, "No, honey, you can't go with Daddy. You can't go with him." But I had this amazing And I suppose that's why I really enjoyed being a father, because I had this deep, deep, deep love for my father. And in a weird way, I haven't even thought about it until right now. In a weird way, I think his disability meant that he was relieved of the responsibility for disciplining me and you know, going and playing ball and teaching me to ride a bike and all of that stuff. He couldn't do those things. So the only thing I was left with was this deep love for my father. So when Allison was born, I just kind of went on the other side of the desk and was like, whoa, so now I'm on the other side of but fatherhood for me was about just deep, deep love. And it still is about deep, deep love, because there's a lot that goes wrong it's the only thing you pull out of your pocket is the love for this human being, and you got to figure it out with that.
Yeah. Did you ever, how old was Allison when your dad died?
Actually, she died my dad died the year she was born.
Before?
Yeah.
So they never met? You never got?
No, never.
So you
they
never
met. They
stood
never
with
met.
your father and one of your kids?
Nope, never.
But your mom, you did though?
Yes, of course, yeah. But she died, but it was a beautiful moment, because for me, it was like a continuation. It was that flip, you know, hopefully we'll be able to talk about being a grandfather, because it's equally profound, and it puts you on this amazing journey or opportunity of self-discovery, of discovering things about yourself emotionally,
As a
intellectually,
grandfather.
that you just you cannot even be. I mean, how do you? You know, you just wake up one going, holy moly! You know? It's beautiful.
Quite the process.
It's beautiful.
Alrighty, well, there's some other questions that I want to manage.
This is
within the
fun,
time.
man. What a beautiful thing to be talking about, man.
Yeah, well, it's nice. It's nice. Yeah, it's nice to talk about it.
But it's also good for fathers, because which is the reason why the Father Collective exists. That we're not conditioned. You're not given the opportunities to talk about it.
But it's so fucking epic, and it's such a, you talk about a journey of something that you do, being a dad, raising kids, getting through this and that. It's the biggest epic in most men's life, as far as something that you take on and that you have to complete.
Yeah.
And it's just so under-acknowledged. It's so underappreciated.
Unfortunately.
And then the caricature of the dad as just, like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. And there's so much cultural characterization as fathers as just, the one that
provides.
Goes to work.
And bring
comes
money
back,
home,
doesn't know how to
mows
change
the
a
lawn.
diaper, mows the lawn.
If you have a lawn and a lawnmower.
But most fathers have such a rich, deep relationship with being a father and have such a love for the kids and wish they could spend more time with their kids. And also, have been conditioned out of thinking that they have a natural tendency to be parents. I'm actually reading a book, or I've read this book, where this woman talks about, the common stereotype that gets promoted is that males, look at all the other mammals, like, the dad just mates and has nothing to do with the kids, which is true, but we are only one of 5% of mammals that have male parental involvement. And the only great ape that has male parental involvement. And this whole evolutionary theory that when our brains started growing, you look at any other mammal, a zebra, an elk, whatever, they give birth 10 minutes later, the thing's walking around, next day it's running around. That's pretty easy. You don't need extra hands on deck to help raise that one. But when our brains got bigger and we started having to be born premature, essentially, you've got this little defenseless thing that requires way more input and support. And if a woman's doing full-time taking care, evolutionarily, if you didn't mate and then step in and help that woman take care of that kid,
nobody lives.
They're not living. It's not reasonable to imagine you would just go and plant your seed with 20 women, and then who the fuck is gonna take, You're out in the fields, you're hunting, it just wasn't possible. So that it turns the theory on its head that we're supposed to just spread our seed, that actually Homo sapiens evolved to pair bond, and that it was far more evolutionarily advantageous to mate with a woman, connect with her, and be involved in raising those children that would have a far higher chance of succeeding than the ones that didn't have their male parental involvement.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, and it's kind of evolutionary in one sense, but also cultural in other senses, because certain societies and cultures, you're dissuaded from it, and unfortunately, I grew up. Unfortunately, I grew up. I mean, unfortunately, in the culture in which I grew up, being kind of Black American culture, in the 50s and 60s, where you're right in the heart of the civil rights movement, and the black male, we some of the liberation that was given black men, the channels through which to live out that liberation, unfortunately, where you're pushed into areas like you got to be tough, and you got to be violent, and you know what I mean. It was more. Look outside the family, and that's the focus of what you got to go fight for. It wasn't fighting for your family, and that's why you look at
400 years of conditioning as well for the black man as a slave. You have a kid, your kid
it's not
you got
yours.
400 years of practice of not having to be a father.
No such thing of you having a kid, because if you impregnate a woman and the woman has a child, it's not yours.
It's not your kid. It's someone else's property. And you do that for 400 years, and you know how strong the love is, but you do that over and over again and have that torn away, then now go and show up as involved fathers. How the fuck are you supposed to do that? You've had 400 years of zero experience being involved fathers in your culture. It's,
probably
question.
why there was just very little. I don't even know of anyone, even my older brothers who had children before I did. I don't recall having a conversation with either of my two brothers about being a father before they were fathers, and precious little after they were fathers. It just was not something, and unfortunately, I guess there's something good about watching your two older brothers do something, and you think, wait a minute, I think they're missing something there, man. So for me, I wanted to. That's why I put so much energy in preparing for it. I didn't know, what I was doing, but I prepared for that event, and when it arrived, I was just so. It was amazing. It was just amazing, So I wanted to get into it, but there was no societal, there was no cultural, momentum that was put into you moving into the actual event of being a father. And it's unfortunate. You see so many fathers who just emotionally cannot connect with their children, and they love them, I'm sure. Unfortunately, in some communities, the father doesn't even get the chance to truly love them, because part of the modality, and particularly in poor communities of color, is have a baby and bolt, man. You don't, that's not your deal, man. That's mama's responsibility to make sure that kid's all right, man. You're out, and I don't really know what the result of that will be in the kind of medium term, in terms of some of the
the result is it's right now, right here. It's abysmal and just terribly detrimental to communities, to kids. The statistics are out, and you look at absent fathers statistics. You don't even have to wonder. You just know that across the board, any child from any community that does not have a father in their life, or does have an emotionally disengaged father in their life, they perform worse on almost every metric of developmental standing compared to kids who had an actively involved dad, without a question.
Yeah, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and men just are not conditioned to know how to show up, even if they love their kids.
Yeah, It's funny because when you're just saying that, it makes me think of when Allison's mom and I decided that we were going to be divorced, and it was very
Yeah, let's talk about that.
yeah, it was really because it was an interesting thing to prove out what you just talked about.
Because as we were saying, I have two sisters. One sister is 2 years younger than me, same mom, and then Allison, my big sis, is 11 years older than me with a different mom, Terry.
Yeah.
Your first wife. When did you guys split up? How old was Allison?
Allison was about 8, I think. And it was interesting because Terry and I were, and still are, delightful friends, as you know. I mean, we celebrated Christmas together with, your mom and your sister and your other sister. We basically, we decided that and it was more me that decided that there's kind of no point in staying married because I wanted to move more in an international and different area, and she had a different kind of lifestyle. But we had a deep love for each other and a respect for each other. So we never had this acrimonious, it just wasn't, it just never materialized.
It wasn't ugly.
Yeah, it wasn't ugly. We literally, we said, look, I was traveling back and forth, and I said, look, I'm going to be spending much more time in, outside the U.S. than inside the U.S. Is there really a point to staying married? What if you met somebody or I met somebody? It would be more of a complication. And so we decided to do. And when we did, probably the most important thing as a part of all of that was my commitment to making sure that I showed up for Allison. I would travel back and forth, and literally, when I met your mother, right? One of the first things I did when I met your mother was to put your sister Allison on the phone to her when she was, and because I really wanted to make sure that as a father, that my children know that they are connected to my life, because my life is actually theirs. The fundamental thing that you do as a father, which you learn along the way, is, somewhere along this line you go, holy moly, it's actually not about me. I'm kind of an accessory to the fact, and these people just use me. I'm there to provide for them and love them, guide them. But the reality is that the universe is asking you to produce the best human being that you can produce, given what you have. And then what is the complete right now is to have particularly a son that is becoming a father. That's like
mission success.
It's almost
That has become a father. That's become
yeah,
a father.
yeah. But it's Jonathan.
son,
It is. You can't even. I don't even know how you prepare yourself for understanding what that is, because I assume it's connected with some deep, biological, instinctual, influences that aren't even at a cognitive level. But when they arrive, you just get such bursts of emotive reinforcement that you got to. So I guess that's important. you know what I mean?
Nature likes it when we have kids.
Yeah, I think nature has figured that out. Yeah.
Another thing I want to know is, what was your biggest challenge as a father?
You really want to know this, huh?
Yeah. What was your biggest? I guess actually I want to know it in two parts.
Sure.
What was your biggest challenge in like the first 3 years of a parent, like early parenthood, and then just what was your biggest challenge as a father on your journey of fatherhood?
Two easy answers. In the first 3 years is, how do you teach your child not to hurt themselves or get themselves really hurt? And I can remember
That was a challenge for
that
you.
was a
You
challenge.
found
Yeah,
that hard.
where you find that what is the right way to do that? because there's a non-stop, you know.
Yeah, there's always
It's
there's a million
there's-
mistakes you can make.
There's a zillion mistakes in there, and they're always, you know, one step away from running in the road. Or, I mean, I think about the stuff I did as a kid, stuff you did as a kid. But I can remember Allison.
But on an emotional level, that was hard for you because I know I have the same
Yeah.
the risk of my toddler doing something, but I don't. I would never have answered that question like that. I don't consider that to be a challenge. I just have a
Well, I'll tell you. I remember one incident.
curious. What was it that was challenging?
Was, you know, how do I teach her so that she internalizes that it's not a restriction of doing things, that I am there to protect you against that which would hurt you. And I'll never forget this. We had a fireplace in our first house, right? And when Allison started to move around and crawl, you know, I said to her, Mom, you know, we have to teach this child that you can't crawl and go near the fireplace. And a child, when the fire was going, she was just naturally interested in it. She'd see the fire, she'd head toward it and said, no, we got to teach her. So you know what I did? I took her finger and I held her finger like this, and I put my finger with hers, and I went closer and closer and closer to the fire until both our fingers touched at the same time, right? To the glass of the fireplace, right? And it was something that I thought of at the moment, and I thought, well, yeah, okay. And she never worked. She never went by the fireplace. She looked at me, and you know, and I thought it was such a big thing to me that I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to figure this out 1,000 times over the course of her being alive. So that was the first time that I remember. I'm sure there are others, but it was the first time I remember saying, oh my God, I'm going to be challenged to just figure stuff out. And if I don't figure it out, the consequences you don't even want to talk about.
Yeah.
And young children in that first 3 years, man, it's just all about discovery. They want to know how sharp knives are, or, what matches are about.
How to climb over things.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just about.
So that was your challenge.
And I thought about it a lot.
The most challenging was
Yeah.
was how to teach her, or
Yes, how to
was
teach
the
her.
weight of thinking?
No, how to teach her. It was just accepting the fact that, oh my gosh, I'm going to be presented with 1,000 circumstances.
How to
where
teach
I've got
her.
to figure out how to teach her,
teach.
and how to have her understand that I'm trying to teach her to protect herself. I'm trying to.
That it's not how to infer that this is not me restricting.
Right,
So
exactly.
then what we're talking about is discipline.
Yeah.
Because discipline, the literal meaning of the word, to have a disciple is to have a student.
Right.
Discipline is teaching. So let's talk about discipline, because that's a huge topic for fatherhood. It's very commonly, and fathers are the disciplinary ones, quote unquote.
Right.
So I'm very interested in discipline.
Right.
I have a toddler who's 3, and discipline has been a very interesting topic, because there has been such a shift in the understanding of quote unquote discipline between your generation and my generation,
Sure.
And discipline ultimately, I think a lot of the disciplinary tactics that have been used have been shown to be much less effective now. Like the punitive discipline, where discipline is associated with punishment, it's not the same thing. And we know now that when you're trying to have a disciple, a student, that punishment is not the most effective way. It's like burning fossil fuel versus a clean burning gas or something.
Sure.
But it stems from the same place every father has to discipline their kids, I think. Unless you're abusing your kid, where that's, you've got issues, and you're beating your child out of anger or some repressing, that's different.
That's right.
Discipline ultimately comes from every father's noble desire to prepare their children to survive in the world.
Right.
Like if you're disciplining a behavior and you don't think they should do that, it's because you think that if they do that behavior, there's going to be some social consequence to them or some physical consequence to them. You discipline your children when you don't want them to go out and get drunk with their friends because you think if they do that, it could have negative consequences. So it's literally from the pure intention of, I've grown up in this world and I'm trying to teach my children things that I think that ultimately will keep them alive in this world. And yet discipline has so often come with punishment. So let's talk about discipline. What did you ever even think about it?
Before, no.
Before, no. Did you ever have the thought, how am I going to discipline? Especially
Never
when I was born, it's different, right? Father
even
to son.
In the environment that we grew up in, discipline was very simple.
You get an ass whooping.
You get, and I grew up in a very, it was corporal discipline, but it was always based in love. So I have no memory ever of my parents where I looked at them and ever thinking that they were unfair to me.
Or I don't know when I'm going to get hit.
Or I should be out. So, but unfortunately, that is the case. So,
But
for
that's
me,
better than straight up getting abused.
Yeah,
right?
no,
you know,
it's
when you're getting,
true.
it's the same physical punishment, but if one, it's like, I come home and dad's drunk and for no reason I'm getting
but if you
spanked.
so to me, I always thought about it, and so I carried the cultural. So I spanked Allison, spanked you, spanked Christina. I don't recall ever, and to me it was what you said earlier. If you ever think, regardless of the discipline, if you think you are ever disciplining your children in anger,
that's not discipline. That's a difference between abuse. I mean,
that's not.
You're hitting your kid 'cause you're mad.
But even if they've done something that made you angry, you know, your reaction to your anger cannot be confused with your desire to guide them to teach. Yeah, exactly
Discipline.
right. Yeah, exactly right. So I've never felt that I've got, and you were pretty challenging. You were talking about the first 3 months. We don't want to talk about that. You know what I mean?
We have to do a 4-hour podcast.
Yeah, that's right. If we go there, you know. So to me, that's what I meant earlier when you say you got to guide your children. It's like that moment touching Allison's fingers to the fire, the front of the fireplace. 2, how do you teach your child that what they seem to be attracted to is actually dangerous for them, and they don't have that knowledge or background or understanding yet, but you have a responsibility. You either say, I'm going to just, you know, if they get blown up, well, whoops, you know, is that, I don't think so. But that's what I mean about the 1,001 circumstances of saying, now, what is the right way to teach? What is the right way to guide? And when your children are younger and as they grow up, there are ways you need them to behave in your environment. That there's a responsibility that they must have. They can't set fire to their beds instead of making it. You know what I mean? You know, there are some things that need to be done the right way. But I do think that if the fundamental basis of your relationship with your children as a father is that if what the Father Collective does, if the only thing it does is teach fathers that they have an emotional responsibility to themselves and to their children, right? As a father, that it's not about provision and discipline. It's about your emotional integration into all of what that is, because you kind of get that link together, and that's what moves through these difficult situations. And some of them are pretty unclear. I'll give you one, which we talk about often, where you were very attracted by the urban black culture, the fact that here you came home from the hospital in an elevator to your room, you know.
In Switzerland.
In Switzerland, right, exactly.
With
with a view of the lake. Not exactly the hood, right? But you're always attracted by that. And for me, I was always on high alert. That was probably, like I talked about with Allison, my most difficult thing was, how do I get this man to understand that, man, there are rattlesnakes under those rocks, man. Don't just go lifting up rocks and shoving your hand in there. It gets real. I know people I've grown up with that are dead and in jail because they didn't understand how to navigate through that situation. And I grew up in the poor hood.
I'm diving straight in there.
And you're like, ooh, I want to go in. And I you know, and I was, it was always, how do I, that was really, really, really hard for me, because I knew you were gonna do it when you became a certain age. I knew that it was important for you to do it. I survived it, right? So I know it's possible to survive, but risk is about, it's not about avoiding risk, it's about understanding and mitigating risk. And so I remember when the decision, when you made the decision that you wanted to go, okay, I'm out of school now, I'm going to Compton. I'm going Crenshaw. I'm going to the hood, man. I'm just gonna live my hood experience. And man, there wasn't a day that went by that I wasn't thinking, just hoping, man, I hope I got this right. I hope I got this right. I hope I got this right. If something happens to this boy and I realize that I didn't get it right, that was probably the most that was probably the most challenging. That's probably my most challenging time as a parent, as a father, of saying, oh my God. And it's especially
and the challenge
to your son. Because I'm always thinking about, I always felt that my father gave me a beautiful way to look at fatherhood. Really, if I saw him today, I would just, dude, you were just like the best. He's philosophical, and yeah, he was physically, he wasn't able to do certain things. But with you, the notion that I need to hopefully, get you on a path where you're actually going to embrace fatherhood in the fullest. Now, I never think thought you would have embraced it to the extent that you have. I'll just be very honest. You are, and I've told you this before, you are the best father that I know. You are. Not me or my father or anybody. You are the best father that I know. So the idea.
So buy my course.
No, but it's true. I'm not, And so to the extent that I think that how we've navigated those 1,000 intricate moments that are, and it's like real. It's like no joke. You're staring at stuff and you're going, man, this feels horrible. It could be horrible, and it could be. The consequences in some cases are fatal. Where parents lose their child because either the child or they or both of them made a mistake. So it is the any assistance and any opening that one can give a father, and again, and for me, because I'm male, you're about to have your own male child. There's this new thing that kind of shows up when you realize that I have to equip my son to navigate something that is really not very evident. That society is not behind you and trying to create a good father. It's not logical. Many of the decisions that you have to make, it's going to be more logical to make the wrong decision than the right one.
Yeah, exactly, man. And therein lies a big component. Is like you just said, it's going to be more logical to make the wrong decision sometimes, which makes me really feel into the importance of getting men to understand the intelligence of the heart and the intelligence of emotions, you know, because the logical thing is one side, and it's the more minority side when it comes to making decisions as a parent. You can't rely on logic every time. There's no kids that's the same. There's no scenario that's the same, you know. And I think that the logic is really just based on what other people's experience is and what they've said makes the most sense to do, you know. Anyone can create a framework to make something logical and then perpetuate the idea that's logical. So you know what it is, it's logical to tell your kid to shut up when they cry because then they stop crying and they learn that they shouldn't cry. Right. But that's completely counterintuitive when you actually feel into it from the place of empathy and actual emotion, and you drop that logic and you think, okay, a kid's crying. On an empathetic level, it actually makes a lot more sense to console that child. Yeah. You know, if you really loved someone and you were empathetic with them, and they, regardless of what sense it made to you, were going through an emotionally hard time to the point that they were crying, it's a no-brainer that the option is to meet with love, is not to squash that feeling, to try and teach them that they should be tougher, you know. But there's so many things where dads aren't conditioned to be in tune with their heart or really connect, so they just perpetuate shit that they were told to perpetuate, that's been perpetuated for so many years, you know, and not malevolently, totally well-intentioned.
Yeah, but it is
just working with the tools you got. And if no one puts fucking tools in your toolbox, like, well, I'm going to try and make the house with this. Yeah. And then when the house is a little bit crumbly, you know, it's like, well, all you gave the dude was a wrench. Like,
a wrench and a frying pan.
Yeah. So
no, but you know, I think honestly, I think that is.
Right, just on that note, though, on the you saying the navigating and all the decisions, and just well done, you know.
You think?
Well done. I really do think, for having had almost zero example, and from coming from a culture that is -10 example, and for having had pretty, you know, a child on the other side of the world with one woman, then a family with two, and navigating the complexities of that, and the complexities of Christina and her journey and mine, and all resulting in you have 3 adult children that are all really healthy physically and mentally and emotionally, and all love you and choose to want to spend time with you and like you, and you know, opt to spend time with you. You know how many kids that are adults that don't make the time to go and hang out
I do.
with their father. You know, so
well, thank you, man.
Well
thank
done,
you, bro.
You know, that's one of life's biggest successes.
To
raise your children healthy, well, self-sufficient, and love you, and you still enjoy spending time together, and they want to make time for you.
You know, I honestly think that learning to be a loving father, it is the best opportunity you have to grow into a loving human being.
Oh man, totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you start that journey, and you really, by happenstance or intention or however you get on that road, if you just keep moving down that road, you will grow your capacity to love, and you will become a better loving human being. And that's a better wife, it's a better neighbor, it's a better friend, it's a better father, it's a better everything, it's better you, it's better life, right? And it is, that's why what you're doing is so important, because you're teaching men that somebody's offering you a graduate course, and you can either step past and keep going, or you can use this opportunity that's going to give you, that's going to pull things that are not logical into the realm of logic that are going to benefit you. And that only comes because your children are going to give you the need to. When have you ever went to one of your friends and said, "Hey, hey Joseph, man, here's what we're going to do, man. We're going to just touch our fingers on a hot stove, man. Make sure you don't burn yourself. Okay, bro, you good?"
No, becoming a father throws you into situations that require of you things that nothing else on planet Earth, other than becoming a father and actively stepping up to the plate to raise your children, will.
Yeah, but you don't have to.
You don't, that's what I said. Actively stepping to the plate.
You don't have to.
It's an opportunity to enter an initiation that, more than anything else, has the potential to transform you, alongside with your relationship with the person you're having that child with, into the highest version of yourself, I believe.
I do too. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think that if you can use the opportunity that the universe, nature is giving you responsibility for a human being, literally from breathing this morning or not breathing tonight, right? You have to navigate whatever shows up during those two events and just kind of figure stuff out. There's opportunity. Yeah, there's opportunities in there for you to be a better loving human being. And I think if there's anything that the Father Collective can do, is just to shine a light on the fact that, hey, the universe has given you the most miraculous opportunity to discover things about yourself that it's beyond mind-blowing, And if
heart-blowing.
Yeah, but if you can get men to just kind of put down the shield for a second
and to have the support and resources, because it's like you said, man, it's so complex.
Yeah.
And some people figure it out, but some people struggle to figure out how to deal with the emotional complexity and the relationship complexity that comes. A lot of people don't figure it out, and they would if they had the resources or the preparation or the support or the guidance. I mean, it's a trip. It's a trip.
If you get fathers kind of on that path, it's so seductive.
And celebrating it, you know, and because it is, man. Especially for my generation, who is the generation that's having the least kids,
True.
And are having kids later and later. Yet there is, especially amongst men, my generation, I'm 29, a millennial, is this thing of purposeless.
I'm not 29
70,
or a millennial.
70 years old. Are you a boomer?
Yeah, I'm a boomer.
Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, millennials. There's this crisis of purposelessness amongst men. There's really, there's this men don't feel a sense of purpose. There's so much talk about find your purpose. You got to step into your purpose. You got to live your purpose, find your purpose. Otherwise, what are you doing? And I felt that, I was a young man. I felt that 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I felt that until Sophie was pregnant and we conceived Aaliyah.
Beautiful.
And then your sense of purpose is every day. It's like the military. What people like about the military is that sense of every day the mission is right in front of me and it's nonstop and I've got people that need me. That's a huge thing as well, is the sense of feeling needed. You've got people that need you every minute of every day. You have the opportunity to finally step into a paradigm which is so actually refreshing when you jump off that cliff of not being entirely self-centered and actually having your life and your energy revolve around other people is refreshing. It's so always thinking about, and I see it sometimes with people that don't have kids, where it is, and it's not a journey for everyone, but I see it when people don't have kids and they're your age or they're 50. You see the difference between someone who's had their whole life where they never had to step really out of themselves and fully be of service. And I'll just be honest, in my opinion, there's a sadness that I feel sometimes when I see people in their later years and they've never had children, and I can still see they've never stepped into that responsible role.
Yeah, but see,
anyway, but it's to each their own. But the point is that it's an opportunity.
Yeah, that's the point I was.
That is unparalleled in what it has the potential to give you. And so many dudes fumble the ball and just drop that opportunity or walk right past it because they don't know about it and they don't even have the framework of
but
just,
that's what I mean. It's not always logical.
No.
So the work that you're doing, if you can just be that conduit that says, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to we're going to just shift your perspective here. Now just check out this little bit over here. And if that starts them on a journey of self-awareness and discovery, that because it is, and it is such an amazing gift that not everyone is given. You know, not everyone shows up in this world with physical capabilities or health or just fortune. Not everybody starts, but if the universe is so graceful that it gives you that opportunity, to me, if you can just help them see it as exactly that, as this opportunity, and I'll relate it to something that you know about. You know, when my oldest brother died, right? Found out that he had cancer. You know, Mom and I went out to see him. We said, "Oh my goodness, it was." I mean, he had, you know, tumors. His tumors had tumors. You know what I mean? We saw the scan. It's like, so which is him? And you know, and we settled up his affairs, brought him out to live with us, and we spent 6 months, literally as a baby. That experience was, people look at it and they see it as, oh my God, how that must have been devastating. It must have been hard. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Every minute of it was beautiful. And the most beautiful thing about it was you realize you have developed this capacity to be at the service of another human being utterly. And it's thrilling. And what taught me to do that? Your two sisters and you. You know? That's you taught me to build joy into that experience. And that's exactly what fatherhood can be. If people are just nudged, you know, to start trundling down the way. And unfortunately, it's shameful that people don't.
Yes, it is. That's what we're doing with this. That's the goal.
Please do.
One at a time. One at a time. Yeah. And it would be interesting to see what the world would look like if that was the case. Just that, if I could just flick a little simulator on and just see, all right, the world now let's just change one thing. But every father that had a child had the support and the resources and the guidance to step to that with his fullest self and fully embrace it. And also the tools to navigate keeping the relationship intact with their baby mama. You know, I think that's also a big difference in your experience of fatherhood, is if you're doing it with a woman that you love and admire and respect and are aligned with in your life trajectory and values and parenting styles. That's a completely different experience of being a father versus having 3 baby mamas and even if you're actively involved in all of your kids' lives.
But it does. But my point is that fatherhood is the thing that allows you to expand so that you can approach an interaction with any other human being from a position of love, from a position of empathy, and literally from just giving a shit. That if you walk into a store and you know somebody greets you and says, "Yes, can I help you?" to actually look at them and make a human connection
As another being.
and acknowledge that there's another human being that you're interacting with, and then you can start pulling out your empathy and your tools. But if you don't, just from a point, if you haven't
Practice the muscle of having to look outside of yourself at another person, be hyper attentive to what they are experiencing in this moment.
And fatherhood, I mean, it's
Every
like
day you
the
practice
ultimate
that muscle.
PhD, man. If you take the opportunity, And I do think that it is, and it's true. You know, I mean, you know, I'm lucky enough that and you know, I'm blessed. You know how I feel about your mom. I'm lucky to have the most incredible human being that the universe has ever produced as my life mate, right? I mean, that's a beautiful experience, you know? But when I think about that, if we think about the family experience that we have now, where I have Allison, I have Allison's mother, you know? Your mother and Allison's mother, they probably communicate more than we do, right? And they are closer, you know, I mean, and it's wonderful to share the relationship on a basis of love. But I'm telling you, the catalyst to all of that was the ability to step into the opportunity that being a father brings to you. And I would only say one other thing, and that is that seeing particularly your son, and I don't even know how to think about this, but as a father, you have a unique role that the universe gives you the opportunity to play. You don't have to, but it gives you the opportunity to play. And if you play it, the rewards to you, I think, are unfathomable. To play that role to the point where you see your son having their children and get to the point where you are now, where my role of being a father is over, that doesn't exist at all anymore. What exists is a relationship between two men who are navigating their lives. That is, you know, I hope that you get there one day.
That's the plan.
And it's like the gift that keeps on giving. You just wake up one day and you go, oh my, what the hell is this now? And it's just like an opportunity to go into an even deeper. And then, you know, as with age, you know, I start thinking about the fact that what is being prepared is a family, a multi-generational being that is moving through time. And you have a role to create positivity as a part of that. And you either step into the opportunity to play it, but if you do, the witnessing that is just like, forget about it. I mean, just, it's, you know, it's, yeah, I don't even know what to say.
Coming soon on the Grandfather Collective podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully the Great-Grandfather Collective.
Grandpa Collective podcast. Well, Pops.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything that you've given me as a father. Thank you for being the first guest on, you know, hopefully of many.
It could not have been given. That was a full joint ownership of an event that we just happened to be in the same boat rowing together.
Well,
no such thing of being a father without a son or a daughter to make it happen for you. So, done deal. So, good.
There you have it. Well,
there you have it.
That was the first episode of the Father Collective podcast. Yeah. Oh yeah, I have to say this. So, if you like that and you want to hear more conversations about fatherhood between me and fathers and mothers and everyone related to it, subscribe, like. We'll see you on the next one. Pops?
Done.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That was fun.
That was fun. Pops,
that was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.